Assalamu alaikum. My name is Salim Siddiqui, and thanks for watching this continuing series on the hotconflict.com website. Well, if you just finished listening to the introduction, you know that we're starting to get into some serious information. This is the second part of this story of truth. If you haven't listened to the whole story of truth, you really need to go through all of that and hear it, because what we did in the story of truth is start from the very beginning and tell the stories of the creation of Adam from the very beginning, and through many of the different prophets that came to the earth and talked about their different message and shined a light on what it was they were trying to show mankind, all the way through many of the prophets of the religions that we know of, all the way to the final messenger, Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him and all the other prophets that we always talk about. And we call this the story of truth that I have already told you. And what I did in that story was talk about some of the things that we see here in our world, some of the things that happened in this physical world, and how all the prophets, as the most noble characters and role models that the Lord has sent for mankind to follow, did what they needed to do to establish the light in their communities and proclaim the religion of truth, or Islam, as all Muslims will tell you, that we call the faith of every single prophet Islam, and we call the religion of all believers Islam, which means to surrender to the truth of the light, that all of us have a soul. And we've been through the fundamentals of faith, and we've been through some of the other concepts, but the most important fundamental, as always, is that there is only one God, and He is the creator of me and you and all that is. And so, as I told you, you always hear some strange stuff from me, so it's time for me to give a caveat again, that now in this new series, we're going to be talking about a lot of what we call the unseen, or the ghaib, that which is going on in the unseen world that we don't understand. And so because of that, a lot of the times the information is very strange and hard for people to understand unless they have been searching for it and looking for it and are ready to hear it. Because now you're trying to focus and center yourself on the essence of who you are. What is the nature of your soul? What is the nature of creation? What are some of the mystical, occult not meaning evil, but occult meaning hidden, secret, unseen, esoteric mystery school knowledge that has been limited to only a few, but now is being open to many people? How do we put that all together? And what is it that many people, especially here in the West, as on the hotconflict.com series, I always tell you things from a Western perspective as a Muslim, speaking to you in English so that you can understand what's going on from a Western perspective, and how Islam and the Quran, the final revelation of all the holy books, and the Prophet Muhammad's sunnah, or his way, or his statements, or hadith as we call them in Arabic, what he told us relates to what's happening in our lives here in the West and all over the world and all over this galaxy and all over the universe. Because we said the story is going to start to get even stranger than it did before. So if we are going to talk about the unseen world, and I'm going to start to tell you about the mysteries of everything that we don't see, and I'm going to be, as my role is but a storyteller, to speak to you in simple words and tell you the tale so that you can start to feel it and connect the dots yourself. How is it that we understand the unseen world? Let's go back to the very beginning. In the beginning, there was light. And by that light, Allah, the Lord Most High, and Allah again is a term that means the God, the creator of all that is, said, "Be," and it was. And this universe that we see around us came into existence. Well, if you've listened to the story of truth and you know your basic understanding of the universe, you know that this universe is a magical and mystical place, and it is expanding and growing, and there are so many things that we don't understand. But we said in the story of truth that we started with Adam. But we know as a son of Adam, that is not the beginning of the story. We said as the fundamentals go, the Lord Most High is described as the light. And he is not depicted in any sign or symbol or icon or statue or cross or any of the pagan rituals that had deceived and corrupted mankind from the beginning until today. And so to understand the truth, we are always seeking the light. And we said that the Lord Most High created the angels, who are made of light, some having wings and some not having wings of different numbers. They do not have free will as we, the sons of Adam, have, so they obey the commandments of their Lord and they do not disobey. And then the Lord Most High created the Jinn, other interdimensional beings or unseen beings made of smokeless fire. And we went into some of the descriptions of that in the story of truth. And now you know you're going to start getting some really juicy stuff, brothers and sisters. Be happy and be joyful, because it's going to start to be a roller coaster ride better than the last one. And we said, if you remember, that when the Lord Most High then decided to create Adam out of clay and mud, the angels asked the Lord, "Are you going to create another race, another species, a new creation that will cause mischief and spill blood?" And we talked about what must have happened before. What must have been happening in this universe before humans were created by the Lord. This is the beginning of understanding the unseen world. But to begin to understand some of the other races and species that exist within this earth and on the surface of the earth and in the skies and heavens above and throughout this galaxy and throughout the universe, we have to start with some basic fundamentals. And so today, as part of your understanding and my understanding of the way things work in this universe, I present to you humbly as a servant of the Lord the number 12. The number 12. The number 12. Now, of course, because I'm giving you so much specific information, I even have some notes, so I apologize for looking at the paper sometimes, but I want to give you so much information so that you can start to connect the dots yourself. Let's start with understanding the number 12 and the position of the number 12 in the perfection of all that is. Because we said if we're understanding the stories of the prophets and the books, and that there is punishment and reward based on our actions and a heaven and hell in the afterlife, after the day of judgment, we said that the final fundamental of faith was qadr, or the divine plan or decree or destiny and fate. That all of this is not random, that everything that is happening is by the plan of the Lord, and so for that we first understand the number 12. Now the number 12 is significant in so many ways. Obviously we know in our modern usage that the number 12 is a measure of trade, and that we do things in dozens, and that there's something gross I'm going to have to tell you. A little joke there, that 12 12s is a gross. Now, that is something important that we need to know, and a little joke that we have also a baker's dozen. When one of us makes something, we have a baker's dozen. Now, that's 12 plus 1. A baker's dozen. That'll become important as we go on to tell this story. Things have always been organized in 12s. You got a Dodocopolis in the ancient system of organizing cities into 12 groups of cities. And so if we look to see the number 12 and understand, is the number 12 significant? Well, we know in mathematics, you have 12 being a composite number. In math, and I'm not a mathematician, so I'm looking at this, where a composite number is the smallest number with exactly 6 divisors, and that's 12. Also in math, 12 is a sublime number, which means it has a perfect number of divisors, or a superfactorial. 3 factorials make a superfactorial, and all of these relate to the patterning of 12. There's 12 inches in a foot, for example. These are all things that we use that are common usage in our day and age, and sometimes we take such obvious things for granted, and so we miss significance of things. Now, in science, for example, we know that now that we're talking about how to understand things, that there are 12 cranial nerves. There are also 12 strands of DNA. That could be important. Me being here in Houston, having experienced the hurricane, and if you go back to the Hot Conflict website, you'll see that right before the story of truth, one of the things that triggered in me, or an activation that happened for me, was darkness. I sat here for a handful of days, 12, 13, 14 days in Houston as we experienced the last hurricane, and it was so significant that I even recorded in the dark for you to tell you what I felt, and you can go back to the website and see that, or go to YouTube and catch those videos of me recording what we experience in science as force 12, the measurement of the highest wind speed of a hurricane. And so that we know that nothing's random, I did a video while being in the hurricane. Now, something interesting, since we're back to the creation of Adam, is that mankind has 12 pairs of ribs. Random? Do you still really think things are random, brothers and sisters? So even in religion, of course, you know that in the Shiite sect of Islam, they have the 12 imams. Greek mythology, the 12 gods, plus Zeus, 12 plus 1. Obviously, we have very different stories of Joseph and his 12 sons, the 12 tribes. That's there from the New Testament, the time of the Bible. We've got the 12 disciples, and then Jesus, 12 plus 1. And then even from the Holy Scriptures, we take certain things when we see them as being possibly of truth from Revelation, chapter 12. The very first verse is, "A great and wondrous sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head." A very clear sign, chapter 12, Revelations. And even we have, even in our modern system of the way we organize things, even in the legal system, We have a jury set up with 12 jurors to decide the fate of a person if he is to lose his life, or a felony that requires 12 of your peers to sit in judgment over you. All of these patterns reflect this nature of 12. In ancient Roman law, you have the 12 tables, or the Lex Dudocum Tablorum, the 12 law tables. As well as pop culture, you got the 12 days of Christmas, my true love gave to me. King Arthur and the 12 Knights of the Round Table. Modern day pop culture, of course I gotta mention Battlestar Galactica and the 12 colonies and the 12 Lords of Kobol and the 12 Cylon models. And those of us who are upon the light, who understand the story of Battlestar Galactica, one day I'm going to do a whole series of videos just on the story of Battlestar Galactica and the truth that has been revealed in that story. For those of us who know the story of truth, when we watch something as beautiful as Battlestar Galactica, we see the truth in it. So say we all. Pop culture. But even in time, we have the way that we organize our very lives as 12 months, 12 hours in the day, 12 hours in the night. The zodiac and the signs in the skies of 12 zodiac signs. The same thing that the Chinese have 12 zodiac signs. And the Chinese also have the 12-year cycles of the earthly branches. The 24-hour day cycle of half, 12 and 12. In music, you have 12 pitch classes in an octave, or you have the 12-tone technique of composing. In art, you have colors divided up into a wheel of 12, 3 primary colors, 3 secondary colors, and then the 6 tertiary colors to understand the color system. And so you have to start to ask yourself, is all of this that we're seeing random? Or is there something divine in the number 12 in and of itself? How do we start to understand the spiritual world? Let's go back to the story. See, there is something there that we are missing. And so, because I always tell you things plainly and openly, I am going to tell you right now so simply that there are 12 races. When I say 12 races, I am talking about 12 types of human races, 12 types of colors, 12 types of human races. But we said we don't want to talk about what are other humanoids in this planet and on the other planets. Yes, you heard me say that, brothers and sisters. I am telling you that before the creation of Adam, we are trying to figure out what is the truth of the other races. And when I say other races, I mean those who are not human, those who are not humanoid, those who are not descendants of Adam. Who were the other races before the creation of Adam? And so if you understand that there were 12 root races, you begin to see the pattern. Now, is this something that is also found in the stories? Well, if you understand what was happening, you know that Adam was created, and Adam was brought to the court, and all of the angels, and even Lucifer, one of the highest ranking of the other races, who had been given the highest status, was also there. Lucifer, the most enlightened one of the other races before the creation of Adam. And so the war began. But we know, based on the comment of the angels, that some crazy, destructive, mischievous bloodshed must have been occurring before the creation of man. For if not, the angels would not ask such a question. For angels do not have divine knowledge or infinite knowledge. They know only that which they are told or that which the Lord has allowed them to experience. Yet they so boldly asked the Lord Most High when Adam, peace and blessings be upon him, was created, about blood and mischief. And we know from Islamic sources that there was a war in the heavens throughout this universe before the creation of Adam, and it involved the other 12 races. And know, dear ones, that there were 12 root races. Now I tell you the parts of the unseen from the story of truth that you didn't realize. How do we understand the unseen? Let's go to the very first moments of the test. Adam is tricked by Lucifer and the war begins. And Adam and Eve are on the surface of the earth. And the first people to be tested and the first people to understand. Now in this third dimension, now those of us who are here of flesh and bone, in this reality, in this state of duality, in this flesh and blood existence, who was the first one to recognize the pattern of 12 and realize the truth of what was going on? It was my brother, my eldest brother. It was your eldest brother. His name was Abel. His name was Abel. The first people to be tested were the first two sons of Adam and Eve. And the first test by the Lord was to our older brothers, and they were told, sacrifice for your Lord. What is a noble sacrifice? In his name, the one who has created you and the one who has created all that is. This was the first test to mankind. And in this test, my brother Abel figured out the truth of the unseen world and understood that this pattern isn't random. And theologians for generations have been trying to figure out what was the reason behind the sacrifices of Cain and Abel. Cain offered in sacrifice his produce and his crops. And Abel, the eldest brother, offered in sacrifice a blood offering, as the scriptures tell us. A ram or a goat. And he chose that sacrifice. And theologians have been debating, was it that the blood sacrifice was the better sacrifice of meat instead of produce of greenery. See the difference once you understand what is the nature of being on the path of light, is that you don't look around you and think to yourself, what is the best sacrifice in my mind? You look around to recognize the truth of reality and look to see for yourselves, is there something that the Lord Most High is showing me that is obvious in the way He has planned the universe? For He is the Creator, and I wish to offer that which is most pleasing to the Lord. And we know from our scriptures, from the Quran, from the Bible, from the Torah, and all of the ancient tales that refer to this, that the sacrifice of our brother Abel was accepted, and the sacrifice of Cain was rejected. And the theologians have said it was because of a blood sacrifice. And I tell you, no, my brothers and sisters, it was because our eldest brother Abel recognized the pattern of creation and saw the signs and knew which was the appropriate season and time based on the stars in the sky and the creation in front of him, because he could see the light and he knew that the appropriate thing to sacrifice was the ram, and it was because of that that it was accepted. And that was something that Satan, the cursed one, understood and recognized, and he knew that we could not have someone as noble a status as our eldest brother Abel to remain. And once Satan realized that Abel was beginning to recognize the truth of the existence, he plotted to murder our brother. But Satan is so evil that he didn't do it himself. He tricked our brother into doing it. He tricked Cain into killing his brother. The dark ones are masters of manipulation. Peace be with you.